Good afternoon. It is April 4th here in Central Florida. It's getting late in the season to work junipers. I had a client that bought a Percummins Nana from me 20 years ago, 19 years ago, 20 years ago, and unfortunately it had passed. He went on vacation. He had an automatic sprinkler system. He had somebody to kind of watch his place, but one of his trees, of which he had many, when he got back was gone. It was really a bummer. He brought it to me. It was in this pot, and it was this tree that had died, and he had bought this tree because it had significance to him and one of his kids. I think it was his daughter. And he had named it, I don't remember the name, but it was something that was a part of their family for almost 2 decades. He brought it in, asked if I could do anything with it. I said, Stephen, I'm really sorry, but this tree is dead. There was no green foliage on it whatsoever. He said, is there anything you can do? And I told him, I said, we actually did a video on Tanuki, basically Phoenix grass, on how to take a piece of deadwood and take a young plant, combine them together, and make a reasonable representation of a tree with interesting deadwood. And he said, I love it. Can you please do it with this tree? I think he named it Eugene or something. I would love to use the trunk. I just remember this. My daughter loved it. It had wonderful movement, as you can kind of see at one point. It was an interesting semi-cascade twin trunk, and that's why it was in this pot. It was an inexpensive Japanese pot, but again, it was one that he had for decades and loved it, and he wanted to continue it in this pot. This was a Juniper's Percummins Nana. I had taken it, it had cracked. The wood hadn't been treated in a very long time, so I came in with a brass brush and I painstakingly took all the bark off, cleaned it up, brushed it so you can see the nice, I don't know if you can see that or not, but you can see the nice deadwood and the really nice veins and the line. Again, I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's just a nice, interesting piece of deadwood. It's not thick, it's not huge, but it has meaning to him. So after I cleaned up all the bark and I cleaned up all of the rot, of which it was substantial, I put some lime sulfur. I brushed 3 coats of lime sulfur. I used an acid brush, one that's meant to be used with caustic paint. This is lime sulfur, and it is pretty rough. I did outside. I had gloves, and I brushed it 3 times. And the lime sulfur, what it does is not only gives it this yellowish white texture, but it also protects it. It doesn't stop the rot, but it retards the rot, slows it down, and protects it. It also is a fungicide and an insecticide, so you do have some protection there. It's not perfect. It's something that needs to be applied usually twice a year, but it's a great way to kind of elongate and stretch the rotting of the tree, because trees rot, and that's kind of the beauty of it, because as the tree slowly rots away, it gets charry and hollows, and you can see the wood fibers, and it's beautiful. So treating it and kind of help protect that is a big plus. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to kind of keep the shape that it had before. I'm going to make it into a twin trunk, and I'm going to use this Itoigawa Shumpaku. It's a twin trunk little young plant that's very flexible. This is only a couple years old. It has strong tips. I'm going to actually put this, and I'm going to join it to the 2 trunks. I'm going to have some deadwood that doesn't have any foliage on there, but I'm going to have some live pads that are going to come out from this, and I'm going to put it back in this pot. And I'm going to let this grow for a few years to help that wood fuse onto this trunk. I'm going to use the grooves that are already on this trunk. It's not going to fit perfect, but what I'm going to do, which is a little different than what I've done in the past, is I'm actually going to use this double fold bias tape. It's actually what I'm going to use is I'm going to use this and wrap it around with this next to the dead wood. I'm going to wrap it nice and tight. It's going to be kind of a bear to do, but it's going to keep it nice and tight and compressed up against this wood. So as it continues to grow, it's going to slowly fuse into this. Instead of using wire to tie it onto the dead wood, or staples, which are both viable options, a lot of times we'll cut a groove and we'll use staples or a nail to screw them onto there. It's such a small piece of wood, it's so thin that I'm just going to wrap around it and I'm going to let it kind of fuse into it. It's not going to be a perfect representation of a beautiful old bonsai with dead wood. It's going to be an homage to this wonderful tree that he had for 20 years, and it's basically going to rise up and still be utilized for a few more years as a beautiful piece of material on his bench with other trees. And hopefully over the next few years, as it continues to develop and grow, it'll be a nice addition. It'll give him fond memories again. So let me get to this, and I'll show you a little bit later how it's progressing. So just looking at this, I ended up looking at 200 little junipers that we have, these Itoigawas, and interestingly enough, 95% of them don't work even remotely because either the trunks are too thick or they've lost their flexibility. The best kind of junipers to use are the ones that have a real flexible trunk and good strong foliage on the ends. Looking at this, you can kind of see this echoes the movement pretty well. Not perfect, but pretty well. And what I might do is also kind of have it wrap around the dead wood specifically, so as it starts to fuse, it will kind of start to look a little bit more, the dead wood or the live vein will look a little bit more interesting. What I don't want to do is cause a lot of damage on the trunk yet. I kind of want it to be relatively unscathed. I've seen them to where they'll actually scratch the whole live vein, put it next to the deadwood, so when it starts to heal, it's nice and tight. It looks like it fused, and I like that. I think that looks great. But with this one, I'm not trying to fake it for anyone. This is obviously going to be an homage of this tree that this gentleman has had for a very long time. So we're not going to try to make anybody think that we have a tree that we don't have. And I think this is actually going to work out really well. So now that I kind of see how I'm going to do this, I'm going to take this fabric and I'm going to I'm going to tie it tight to the dead wood, and I'm going to start rolling it along the dead wood until I'm going to get to point up top, because what I want to do is actually wire these branches to again kind of start creating the pads so it looks like a bonsai tree. Pretty much once we put it in the pot, it'll be attractive. I want him to look at this and say, I remember that tree. That's the goal. So I'm going to stop talking so we can just kind of fast forward through all this. Now what I've done is I've attached this nice and close to the deadwood, tied both ends, so it's tight. Still doesn't look like much, because next I'm going to do is I'm going to wire all this that I have. Now granted, I want this to grow, but I still want it arranged. So I'm going to give it some light wiring. I'm going to wire loosely around if I hit the fabric, but I'm still going to wire it, just so I have complete control of what this is going to look like in the pot. When I'm all done, I'm going to put it in a bonsai pot in bonsai soil, and now I'm going to just work on growing it for the next couple years. So I have a 5-year plan, and I think in 5 years this is going to be a beautiful, interesting homage to what it was at one time. So let me get to wiring. So basically, this is pretty much all the basics are pretty much wired. There's a couple little ones that I didn't bother to wire, but every main branch is basically wired up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a really good long look at this and make sure that I'm going to have it in the right attitude in the pot and position these branches in the correct placement. I do believe that's how it used to be. I think that's exactly what I'm going to continue to do. So what I'm doing is just basically creating some pads. I'm not going crazy cutting the foliage off, because the foliage is what's going to thicken these branches, thicken the trunk, and make it tight to the deadwood. So I know that these aren't going to be perfect. That's okay. I might cut some off from the bottoms, just because it ruins that illusion. And they'll get shaded out anyway as these get dense. So any of the real shoots that are growing out from the bottom, just to kind of keep this looking presentable, we'll take them out maybe. Trying to make it have bends and movement just like the deadwood to echo that. So as these get thicker, they get more and more conducive to the design. Also, when you create something like this, you don't want the deadwood and the live apex to be the same height. It should always be different heights. So it's something else that I'm looking at while we're bending and tweaking. Just cutting some of these shoots out that are growing straight down. I do like it. This is kind of how we're going to place it. And deadwood is higher than the live canopy. Deadwood is lower than the live canopy. But it's a nice little twin trunk design. And this is similar to how it was placed. And it's going to take years to be grown out, rewired, reshaped to really kind of get that previous glory that it had. But it's okay. Got time. If we don't work on it, the next generation can work on it and continue to improve it, hopefully. That's the fun of bonsai, right? You're not the owner of it, you're just the caretaker. You take care of it till the next person or people take care of it. And that's the fun of it. Hopefully you took care of it in such a way to where they're not having to get it healthy. They're not having to take care of the rot. They're not having to deal with a tree that's pot bound, that's weak because it wasn't repotted correctly. If you took care of it lovingly and correctly and you knew the plant horticulturally, all they have to do is build on what you've done previously. And that's what I love about bonsai, is if you have a tree that is taken care of correctly in the correct soil with the correct care, it constantly gets built on itself. 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. Unfortunately, something like this can happen, but sometimes it's an opportunity. A lot of people don't like Tanuki, don't consider it good bonsai, but I disagree. If you do it with reverence and appreciation for what was there, the deadwood and the tree, this could be just as beautiful. So what do you think?
Ooh, that thing rules.
Kind of neat, right? Needs a few years, but cute little thing. Yeah,
That's awesome.
I agree. Once it's in the pot, it'll look a lot cuter. Once it's in the pot and it's grown for a few years, it'll look a lot cuter than that. This is a young tree. It's been in this pot for not long. Not long. We had to pot it up and get it out a little while ago. And it's got a lot of good roots. It's pretty happy, but I'm not going to bare root it. It's in pine bark perlite. And I'm just going to tie it in. It has good roots, good feeders. Not a ton of real long stuff, so I'm not even going to trim it to get it in this pot. And we're going to use Akadama, Cayuga pumice, red lava, black lava. That's what we're going to use in this mix. A couple of things you need to be aware of with a Tanuki is the deadwood. If it's below the soil line, especially if you're trying to create a powerful flare, be aware that that deadwood is going to rot. It's going to have to be treated and addressed. You may have to periodically lower the soil line and treat it with some lime sulfur to protect it. If you have a piece of deadwood that's not particularly resistant to rot long term, some people have used Minwax wood hardener below the soil line, and that basically plasticizes the wood almost, and they'll just soak it with that Minwax and then put the soil back. The best thing to do if you're going to do that is actually soak it before you ever work it like this. This particular one it's pretty old deadwood, pretty resinous. It was that reddish color because it was older wood. Even though the tree he had for 19 years, I think the actual tree was closer to, I think it was over 50 years. So it was a lovely little thing. It was in a potatoe, so it wasn't huge. I mean, but that wood that you saw was more the core of that deadwood. It was originally over twice that size. It just over the years rotted away. But the inside stuff is very resinous, very full of lignin, resistant to rot. You saw I didn't bare root it. I was careful with the root ball. I don't want to damage those nice fine fibrous roots. I'm going to chopstick it. And frankly, the pot's a little big for this, but it's what he had. He enjoyed it. Just to show you though, that's the tree now. First wiring. Got a long ways to go, but it's fun. Thank you so much for watching our new Tanuki video. Appreciate it. See you soon.